Good morning, philosophers. So I looked it up. If I'm going to be saying this guy's name for the next several days, I wanted to know how to say it. It's Cebes in English, I think. I think the original Greek, it might be something different, but we're going to go with Cebes. So I hope you guys are having a great day. Let's pick up where we left off, where we're about to talk about the afterlife with Socrates on the day of his murder. Tell this to Evenus, Cebes, wish him well and bid him farewell, and tell him, if he is wise, to follow me as soon as possible, meaning to follow him to the afterlife. I am leaving today, it seems, as the Athenians so order it. Said Simmias, what kind of advice is this you are giving to Evenus, Socrates? I've met him many times, and from my observation he is not at all likely to follow it willingly. How so, said he, is Evenus not a philosopher? I think so, Simmias said. Then Evenus will be willing, like every man who partakes worthily of philosophy, yet perhaps he will not take his own life, for that, they say, is not right. As he said this, Socrates put his feet on the ground and remained in this position during the rest of the conversation. Then Cebes asked, how do you mean, Socrates, that it is not right to do oneself violence, and yet that the philosopher will be willing to follow one who is dying? Come now, Cebes, you and Simmias, who keep company with Philolaus, not heard about such things? Nothing definite, Socrates. Indeed, I too speak about this from hearsay, but I do not mind telling you what I have heard, for it is perhaps most appropriate for one who is about to depart yonder to tell and examine tales about what we believe that journey to be like. What else could one do in the time we have until sunset? But whatever is the reason, Socrates, for people to say that it is not right to kill oneself? As to your question just now, I have heard Philolaus say this when staying in Thebes, and I have also heard it from others, but I have never heard anyone give a clear account of the matter. Well, he said, we must do our best, and you may yet hear one, and it may well astonish you if this subject, alone of all things, is simple, and it is never, as with anything else, better at certain times and for certain people to die than to live. And if this is so, you may well find it astonishing that those for whom it is better to die are wrong to help themselves, and that they must wait for someone else to benefit them, And Cebes, lapsing into his own dialect, laughed quietly and said, Zeus knows it is. Indeed, said Socrates, it does seem unreasonable when put like that, but perhaps there is reason to it. There is the explanation that is put in the language of the mysteries, that we men are in a kind of prison, and that one must not free oneself or run away. That seems to me an impressive doctrine, and one not easily... Man, I just can't read today. I'm sorry, guys. That seems to me an impressive doctrine, and one not easy to understand fully. However, Cebes, this seems to me well expressed, that the gods are our guardians, and that men are one of their possessions. Or do you not think so? What is this? I mean, I guess it's necessary to people that believe that God exists, that the God literally owns you as like property or slave. It's just insulting. It just blows my mind that so many people are so happy to be just the chattel property of some god. It's insane to me to think. Like, the same people would reject out of hand that they own their children, yet any argument that would justify God owning you as property would justify you owning your kids as property. Anyway, I digress. However, Cebes, this seems to me well expressed, that the gods are our guardians, and that men are one of their possessions, or do you not think so? I do, said Cebes. And would you not be angry if one of your possessions killed itself when you had not given any sign that you wished it to die? And if you had any punishment you could inflict, you would inflict it? Certainly, he said. Perhaps then, put in this way, it is not unreasonable that one should not kill oneself before a god had indicated some necessity to do so, like the necessity now put upon us. That seems likely, said Cebes. As for what you were saying, that philosophers should be willing and ready to die, that seems strange, Socrates. If what we said just now is reasonable, namely, that a god is our protector and that we are his possessions. But if a god wills you to be dead, why wouldn't the God of infinite power just kill you? Like, why do you gotta do it for him? Anyway. It is not logical that the wisest of men should not resent leaving this service in which they are governed by the best of masters, the gods, for a wise man cannot believe that he will look after himself better when he is free. A foolish man might easily think so, that he must escape from his master. He would not reflect that one must not escape from a good master, but stay with him as long as possible, because it would be foolish to escape. What? But the sensible man would want always to remain with one better than himself. Wow. So, Socrates, the opposite of what was said before is likely to be true. The wise would resent dying, whereas the foolish would rejoice at it. I thought that when Socrates heard this, he was pleased by Cebes' argumentation. Glancing at us, he said, Cebes is always on the track of some arguments. He is certainly not willing to be at once convinced by what one says. Good job, Cebes. You're wrong, but good job for trying, said Simmias. But actually, Socrates, I think myself that Cebes has a point now. Why should truly wise men want to avoid the service of masters better than themselves, and leave them easily? And I think Cebes is aiming his argument at you, because you are leaving us so lightly, and leaving those good masters, as you say yourself, the gods. You are both justified in what you say, and I think we're back to Socrates. You are both justified in what you say, and I think you mean that I must make a defense against this, as if I were in court. You certainly must, said Simmias. Come then, he said, let me try to make my defense to you more convincing than it was to the jury. For Simmias and Cebes, I should be wrong not to resent dying if I did not believe that I should go first to other wise and good gods, and then to men who have died and are better than men are here. Be assured that, as it is, I expect to join the company of good men. This last I would not altogether insist on, but if I insist on anything at all in these matters, it is that I shall come to gods who are very good masters. That is why I am not so resentful, because I have good hope that some future awaits men after death, as we have been told for years, a much better future for the good than for the wicked. Well now, Socrates, said Simmias, do you intend to keep this belief to yourself as you leave us, or would you share it with us? I certainly think it would be a blessing for us too, and at the same time it would be your defense if you convince us of what you say. Forgot my coffee. Be right back. Coffee is required for this process. There we go. All right, where were we? Do you intend to keep this belief to yourself? I certainly think it would be a blessing for us too. And at the same time, okay. I will try, he said. But first, let us see what it is that Crito here has, I think, been wanting to say for quite a while. What else, Socrates, said Crito, but what the man who is to give you the poison has been telling me for some time, that I should warn you to talk as little as possible. People get heated when they talk, he says, and one should not be heated when taking the poison, as those who do must sometimes drink it 2 or 3 times. Wow. Socrates replied, take no notice of him, only let him be prepared to administer it twice, or if necessary, 3 times. I was rather sure you would say that, Crito said. But he has been bothering me for some time. Let him be, he said. I want to make my argument before you, my judges, as to why I think that a man who has truly spent his life in philosophy is probably right to be of good cheer in the face of death, and to be very hopeful that after death he will attain the greatest blessings yonder. I will try to tell you, Simmias and Cebes, how this may be so. I'm afraid that other people do not realize that the one aim of those who practice philosophy in the proper manner is to practice for dying and death. Now, if this is true, it would be strange indeed if they were eager for this all their... Now, if this is true, it would be strange indeed if they were eager for this all their lives and then resent it when what they have wanted and practiced for a long time comes upon them. Simmias laughed and said, By Zeus, Socrates, you made me laugh, though I was in no laughing mood just now. I think that the majority, on hearing this, will think that it describes the philosophers very well, and our people in Thebes would thoroughly agree that philosophers are nearly dead, and that the majority of men is well aware that they deserve to be. And they would be telling the truth, Simmias, except for their being aware. They are not aware of the way true philosophers are nearly dead, nor of the way they deserve to be, nor of the sort of death they deserve. But never mind them, he said, let us talk among ourselves. Do we believe that there is such a thing as death? Certainly, said Simmias. Is it anything else than the separation of the soul from the body? Do we believe that death is this, namely, that the body comes to be separated by itself apart from the soul, and the soul comes to be separated by itself apart from the body? Is death anything else than that? No, that is what it is, he said. Consider then, my good sir, whether you share my opinion, for this will lead us to a better knowledge of what we are investigating. Do you think it is the part of a philosopher to be concerned with such so-called pleasures as those of food and drink? By no means. What about the pleasures of sex? Not at all. I'm going to break and have another disagreement from Socrates here. Pretty much on this entire book, I think. What of the other pleasures concerned with the service of the body? Do you think such a man prizes them greatly? The acquisition of distinguished clothes and shoes and the other bodily ornaments. Do you think he values these or despises them, except in so far as one cannot do without them? I think the true philosopher despises them. Do you not think, he said, that in general such a man's concern is not with the body, but that, as far as he can, he turns away from the body towards the soul? I do. So, in the first place, such things show clearly that the philosopher more than other men frees the soul from association with the body as much as possible. Apparently. A man who finds no pleasure in such things and has no part in them is thought by the majority not to deserve to live and to be close to death. The man, that is, who does not care for the pleasures of the body. What you say is certainly true. Who is he talking to? Simmias? Okay. Simmias says, what you say is certainly true. Then what about the actual acquiring of knowledge? Is the body an obstacle when one associates with it in the search for knowledge? I mean, for example, do men find any truth in sight or hearing? Or are not even the poets forever telling us that we do not see or hear anything accurately? And surely if those two physical senses are not clear or precise, our other senses can hardly be accurate, as they are all inferior to these. Do you not think so? Simmias says, I certainly do, he said. Well, this seems to be patently absurd, because if your hearing has no sense for accuracy, or no capacity for accuracy, then you wouldn't understand the word Socrates was saying. It's self-contradictory. Come on, guys. Come on. We can do better than this. I certainly do, said Simmias. When, then, he asked, does the soup... soup. Why did I just say soup? It's hilarious. Waking up. Wait, I'm not a morning person. This is a challenging thing for me. When, then, he asked, does the soul, not the soup, grasp the truth? For Whenever it attempts to examine anything with the body, it is clearly deceived by it. True, said Simmias. It is not in reasoning, if anywhere, that any reality becomes clear to the soul. Yes. And indeed the soul reasons best when none of these senses troubles it, neither hearing, nor sight, nor pain, nor pleasure, but when it is most by itself, taking leave of the body, and, as far as possible, having no contact or association with it in its search for reality. That is so, says Simmias. And it is then that the soul of the philosopher most disdains the body, flees from it, and seeks to be by itself. It appears so. What about the following, Simmias? Do we say that there is such a thing as the just itself, or not? We do say so by Zeus. And the beautiful and the good? Of course. And have you ever seen any of these things with your eyes? In no way, he said. All right, that's a ball of wax we're getting into right here. Things that don't exist being talked about like they exist. We're going to leave it there. Today, I'm going to focus on, I don't know, I think most people think this is boring, but I think it's critical. I'm going to be focusing on process improvement. Today is a process improvement day. Anything that I have to do more than once in life today, especially things that I do every day, I'm going to take a moment before beginning the process to make sure that I'm doing it as efficiently as possible, and that I have a system set up to make it as quick and efficient and productive as possible, because you get the most returns from improving a process if that process happens every single day. So I'm going to be thinking about things I do every day. Like I've already thought of some ways I can improve my productivity improve my productivity system here with the bullet journal going forward to make everything faster every day, and it's going to save a little bit of time every day of my life. And that means, hoping that my soul sticks with my body for a long time, will actually add up to being a lot of time. All right, guys, improve your processes today. Think about things that you have to do every day, or often, multiple times a week. Find ways to improve those once and for all so that you can be better for the rest of your life. Have a great day, guys. Talk to you soon.